Hi, everybody. In about 30 seconds, we're going to start the Megaport live session. Just waiting for a couple of people to join the call. Just in about 10 seconds, we'll start. Okay, we're off. Hello, everyone. Welcome to one of the ongoing series of the Megaport Live Tech Drop-ins. My name is David Sloan, and I've been a solution architect at Megaport for around 2.5 years now. So I have a wealth of experience in connecting multiple services into customer ecosystems, and I look forward to discussing in this live session our Megaport Virtual Edge product with a Cisco C8K autonomous image built on it. There will be time for some Q&A, and so please keep the questions coming throughout the webinar, and I will attempt to address as many of them as possible when we get to the Q&A session at the end. So a quick discussion on our unique value proposition. Megaport's network proposition is unique, and it's based on the concept of NAS. NAS provides the network in a way that is much more aligned with cloud subscription models, with services being available on demand in near real time. NAS provides the underlay building blocks for organizations like yourselves to deploy a whole host of technical solutions to match your operational business requirements. So what makes a NAS platform different from other types of network propositions? Well, first off, it's the reach. Megaport NAS is built as part of a virtualized global ecosystem built on pre-existing hardware. This gives the ability to deploy capacity to all the well-known cloud service providers, giving it access to thousands of IT-based services, as well as having connectivity to data centers and IX services across the globe. You can also create your own private, secure closed user groups with your trading partners that have Megaport NAS infrastructure. And this can all be done in near real time in a software-defined manner. It has predictable performance. It's like having your own private fiber lines, making it highly secure. Your data travels on our private global network with no internet within the core. All these components can be linked together with virtualized networks cross connects, and we call them VXCs. And they are typically layer 2 MPLS pseudo wires. And as stated, all of this can be built in near real time with just a few minutes, and then the service is up. More on, it's scalable. You only pay for the capacity you wish to deploy, as it's pre-built and virtualized. You can scale capacity up and down on demand, and you no longer have to worry about the traffic spikes or wasted capacity. And this ensures good end user application performance. Megaport's on-demand components are physical ports, as well as, and these are in data centers, as well as things like virtual routers, and we can host virtual firewalls, virtualized SD-WAN elements, and connections to the internet and internet exchanges. So all these components are virtualized. This makes NAS a very cost-effective solution. This all can be designed and deployed and fully operational in minutes and be available for only the term you need. This reduces your upfront infrastructure costs to zero, as your Megaport assets are virtual and require no capital investment or hardware provision. It's also worth mentioning egress fees for all cloud providers via Megaport partner on-ramps are significantly lower, some as much as 75% compared to internet egress fees. So another financial benefit if you're a large user. And you can design, deploy, and manage and monitor all on a single secure portal. It's point and click. And I'll show you that later in the demonstration. You can bring your own cloud service keys from your CSPs, and this makes establishing private connectivity really simple. But for those that have more sophisticated needs, both Terraform and API build calls are available for a whole host of deployment and management scenarios. So here's a quick snapshot of our global reach. You can access Megaport in over 850 locations across the globe. Please note, there are two types of locations where you can connect to a Megaport network. And this is an installed location. And these locations contain Megaport hardware. And then we have an enabled location. And these locations share the same campus or metro area as a Megaport installed location. Megaport hardware is not located within the enabled location facility, but you can access it through a private intra-campus or intra-metro cross-connect. But as you can see, we have real presence in NAM, EMEA, and APAC, and we're always deploying new locations throughout the globe. So now I'd like to discuss one of those building blocks that I mentioned earlier, which is the Megaport Virtual Edge. So let's go through this service in more detail. So to explain this service, let's take a common scenario. On the left, you have a number of locations that need access to cloud services. And on the right, you have those cloud services. Now, you could use the internet with potentially higher egress charges, potentially higher security risks, and potentially more unpredictable performance. Megaport has a service to enable customers to deploy virtual connectivity points of presence around the world in near real time, removing the need for physical hardware, and this is the Megaport Virtual Edge. This gives access or private access to local and international cloud services, as well as gateways for data to be delivered to data centers or most of the cloud service providers, including AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, and IBM, to name but a few. And we have over 280 plus multi-cloud on-ramps. The MVE is available in around about 80 locations globally, with generally multiple nodes in countries to increase bandwidth, availability, and resilience. The MVE can be an extension to your firewall estate, your routing estate, and/or an SD-WAN element. We have orchestrated integrations with the world's leading SD-WAN routing and firewall service providers, which I'll come on to on the next slide. And the MVE becomes a gateway, and using NAS virtual cross connects, it gives your organization access to over 850 data centers and 365 marketplace providers. So these providers include things like SIP, BGP-based internet, and WebEx providers. So there's a whole host of an ecosystem there to buy from. So what is the MVE? The MVE is a virtual machine for a virtual network function. This resides privately within the Megaport ecosystem, and it offers compute options from 2 CPU all the way through to 12 CPU, and from RAM options from 8 gig all the way to 48 gig. And as well as providing DDoS protecting internet as options from 20 meg to 10 gig. It provides a highly versatile platform, allowing organizations to bring their own vendor license into the Megaport ecosystem. Once established, you can connect to branch or offices via tunnels over Megaport internet into an MVE and to all the other building blocks within the Megaport ecosystem. And as you would expect, it has very flexible contract terms available in minutes on a consumption basis. MVEs are strategically located where multiple cloud on-ramps exist. Therefore, they're great for native cloud-to-cloud working, offering very low latency and privacy, as well as being great for data center to cloud or cloud-to-cloud migrations. So what does this look like? Here is an example of a customer deploying an SD-WAN license, but they could be equally a virtual firewall or a virtual router license into the MVE. And in this case, in the diagram, it's an SD-WAN license, and this just becomes another SD-WAN element in your management SD-WAN portal. And this solution gives access to the branch sites on the left, which have their own local internet access, then tunneling over the Megaport internet into the MVE and on into the Megaport ecosystem. And that could include data centers or other MVEs or other CSPs. The advantage of this is the new element acts as a local gateway and potentially a middle mile to cloud service providers and other far-end locations. This service is widely available across 14 countries, meaning that your end users have a better experience as they are close to cloud and data center application resources. So our list of vendor types and software types are: with Aruba, we support SD-WAN. With Palo Alto, we support VM Series Firewall. With VMware, we support SD-WAN. With Versa, we support SD-WAN and Firewall. And we also support the Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN product, formerly known as Viptela. And I'm going to demonstrate you the C8K autonomous routing options very shortly. We also support Fortinet FortiGate, for SD-WAN, their firewall propositions, and their router. So how does this help? Well, it is simple to deploy, and then policy is based on your either best vendor practice or your own company's internal way of doing things. It gives full IP routing control and traffic manipulation and filtering to suit your own application requirements. It's ideal for multi-routing domains through the use of things like VRFs and VDOMs as an example. So you can chop that device up to do a number of different functions. And this device allows 24 VXCs to be configured into the cloud and other services within the Megaport ecosystem. And generally, lead times for building an MVE are around about 5 to 20 minutes. So apart from remote access from branch, office, or end user locations, this solution allows service chaining. So you can take multiple MVEs and have a routing plane of Cisco and a firewall plane of FortiGate. So you can take a best-in-breed approach or a security in-depth approach. It's also great if you're on a mergers and acquisition trail and you suddenly find you have new hardware vendor solutions thrust upon you. You don't have to swap out one before its end of life and waste it. You can run both in parallel through MVE. Another common use case is we're increasingly seeing organizations adopting a cross-cloud interworking strategy. In fact, a large proportion of our customers connect at least 2 cloud providers. One of the reasons is business continuity, and this is a key factor. You can distribute your workloads to mitigate risk to your business, either into different data centers or to different cloud providers. And so if you experience downtime, the MVE allows you interworking and allows you to redirect the resources within minutes. You can also run production and development in different ecosystems using different clouds or cloud partitions for separation. This means testing can be done without disruption to live service applications and services, and you can separate on-demand MVE, an on-demand MVE, which could be used to facilitate a pre-test prior to moving to full production. Also, it's great for cost optimization. You can pick the best price for any resources, potentially, say, in a cloud environment at any moment in time. The MVE facilitates this, and you can still benefit from low egress charges and no installation costs. And also, finally, workload distribution. Different cloud providers are better at different things. Different applications or workloads may have different requirements, and cross-cloud allows you to select the cloud provider that best meets your demands, and the MVE allows low latency between these cloud solutions. So let's, without further ado, move on to, you waited eagerly, let's move on to the portal demonstration. So I have pre-built a device because it does take about 5 minutes to spin up a normal device. However, I'm going to spin up a device, an MVE device, a C8K device, and show you how to do that. And then in the existing device, we'll just spin up an AWS circuit to show you how easy it is to connect all these services together. So within the portal, obviously we have lots of options, but we're just going to focus on MVE today, but we have MCR and ports, which have been covered on different live sessions. But I'm going to hit MVE and I'm going to select the country. So I'm going to build one in Sweden and I'm going to select Stockholm ST05. So, okay. And as you can see, we've got options for red and blue zones here. So we have complete diversity. Right, I'm going to click next. And then what will come up is a list of the vendor types that we support. And as you can see, there's Aruba, there's Cisco, there's Fortinet, there's Palo Alto, VMware, and Versa. So I'm going to take the latest version of the Cisco, right here. And I'm going to fill in some of the information over on the right-hand side. So I'm going to give that name. So we're going to call that live test 1. And we'll select a size. We'll select the smaller one just for the demo purposes. And then you have a reference point here where you can drop any information that's relevant to your own organization. It's free text, and that appears in every component on our network. So you can make notes that are relevant to your organization. And in this particular mode, we can select SD-WAN. So if you want to use it as a Cisco SD-WAN, Catalyst SD-WAN device, but in this instance, we're going to go for autonomous. We then create an SSH key. And then we move on to the final aspect of it. And this is the data plane. So we offer multiple VNICs on these devices. Now, you may want to use that to have private and internet-facing VNICs, so you know which interfaces are trusted or untrusted. So there's different ways that you might want to use the individual VNICs, but as you can see, we can scroll up to 5 different VNICs on the device. In this instance, I'm just going to build 2. I'm going to build one called internet, and I'm going to call one VNIC called private. Okay, and then we'll move on. And as you can see, the rates for the device from no minimum term up to 36 months are all automated. So you can see what you're spending straight away. And these are in Swedish krona. So we move on. I've ordered the device and it gives a summary here and the outline of some of the VNIC information that we've configured. And then I'll move on from that down to, we'll add the MVE. So at this point in the process, you could create a port and add your own internet, but we're going to use Megaport's own internet. So this is a great service. Megaport Internet is a great service that allows you from 20 meg to 10 gig. And we have diverse on-ramps. So we have red-blue on-ramps as well to provide maximum diversity within the Stockholm area. So I'm going to pick STO5 as my on-ramp location, and I'm going to select 20 meg of bandwidth. I'm going to put that on the VNIC that's the internet-based VNIC, and I'm going to leave it untagged. I'm going to put it on no minimum term. So I'll just click next there. I add that VXC, and I'll order the service. So that begins the API call into our network. Here's some standard terms and conditions which come up, and then you add that. Once it's done the validation call, it's now beginning to build the service. So now what we'll do once this is spun through this process, we will use the other MVE, and by the time we've finished configuring that MVE, I suspect the second MVE that we've just built will be available. So let's just let this spin through a second. Just takes a couple of minutes. So it's worth mentioning with the C8K version that you are able to load extra DNA licenses once you've gone into the CLI, and we'll talk very briefly about that shortly. So if here we have the service up and running at the bottom, and this will probably be deployable by the time we finish the call. Right, so I'm going to add a connection into AWS. So I'll just hit connection there. I'm just taking a couple of seconds for the portal to catch up. There we go. Right, so click connection. I select my cloud, and as you can see, we've got a whole host of cloud providers. All of the main ones are outlined here, but I'm going to select an AWS service, and then I can select either a hosted VIF or a host connection, and that's a whole other session that we could cover by Megaport Live as to which one you'd want. But by and large, if you've got things like transit gateways, hosted connection is the way that you want to go. So I will select a location in Sweden as an on-ramp, and I will select our blue on-ramp within Sweden. So I'll select next, and all I need to do is give that a name. So I'll call that AWS Live link. I'll give it a rate limit. So we'll go for 50 meg. And I will select VNIC 1, the private one, because I want to be that as part of my private side. I want to see that as my trusted side of the network. So I'll select it on no minimum term. I could assign a VLAN if I wanted to. I'm not going to in this instance. I'll let the service auto assign, and I will just put in my account details and select next. And that will begin the process. Once the VXE is added over on the left, it appears in the shopping cart. We click order, and that will validate the order, and then we'll simply just order the service. Okay, so we'll give that a second to come up. Right, okay, in the meantime, the initial MVE that I configured, just give that a second to come up. Right. Okay. Right, that's taking a little longer than I thought, but we'll leave that. We'll put that to one side for the moment. We'll come back to that shortly. So what we do is we'll very quickly just reduce this, and I'll show you how you can access the existing MVE, the initial one I built. So as we go into this device, we just do a simple SSH session into the existing MVE, and then that gives you complete CLI configuration access. So you can do things like you use your commands like show run, You can add extra DNA Essentials licenses to that range, or you can do things like, your usual ConfT, interface, G2, etc. So that's the really simple way that we can allow MVEs into the network. And I'll just bring my portal back and show you that the AWS Sales Service is now up and running and will be available shortly. And as you can see, the MVE that we spun up in the actual course of this demonstration is now available and ready. So I hope that's been very useful. I hope that's been a bit of an education on how simple the MVE is to deploy within the network. And I think we'll move on now to any questions that have appeared within the course of the demonstration. Let me have a quick look, see if there's been any questions. Okay, so it appears we've got a few questions. So the first question is, where can I get the list of available locations for the MVE? Okay, this is available on our website, which is www.megaport.com. There is a locations portion of this website, and you can look at enabled locations, and you can select country or locations that have specific MVE availability. There is another question. How will this allow me to integrate into SASE? Oh, that's a good question. So where a vendor allows SASE, and as obviously SD-WAN is part of the SASE, it's a SASE element, and so is firewalling is part of the SASE element. The MVE can be part of the underlay that provides those services. So it's really mostly down to the capability of your vendor that you're procuring, and we can act as that underlay. So that's a really good question. And then last one is, are you looking to make larger MVEs than still a 12 CPU device? At the moment, from the software types that we support, we are not seeing any requirement for larger than 12 CPU MVEs. But if there was a requirement in the marketplace for larger virtual machines, then we would certainly look to support that, I think, as part of our product development. So great questions. Thank you very much. And now it's really a case of saying thank you, and please attend other Megaport MVE live sessions. Megaport live sessions. There was one at every Friday, and this will be a great education for us to be able to present to you. So thank you very much.